Have you ever felt that maintaining friendships after a certain age is more exhausting than fulfilling? Maybe you've noticed that the people you once considered close have drifted away, or perhaps you've started to wonder, do I really need friends after 70? That thought might sound shocking at first. After all, society tells us that friendships are essential at every stage of life. But here's the truth. After 70, prioritizing your own peace, independence, and happiness can be far more fulfilling than maintaining friendships out of habit. This isn't about isolation. It's about freedom. Freedom from social expectations, emotional burdens, and unnecessary obligations. Imagine a life where you wake up without worrying about returning calls, attending social gatherings you don't enjoy, or keeping up with friendships that no longer serve you. In this video, we'll explore 6 powerful reasons why embracing independence in your later years might be the best decision you'll ever make. By the end, you may see your golden years in a completely new light, one that's filled with peace, purpose, and joy. So stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover could change the way you live the rest of your life. Reason 1. You no longer need to prove yourself. Think back to your younger years. How often did you worry about fitting in, being liked, or proving yourself to others? Maybe you spent years maintaining friendships that were built on social expectations, rather than genuine connection. But now, at this stage in life, ask yourself, does any of that truly matter anymore? One of the biggest gifts of growing older is realizing that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You've lived through the phase where social validation was important. You've built your career, raised your family, and established your legacy. Now, the only approval that truly matters is your own. Let's talk about Harold, a man who spent most of his life climbing the corporate ladder. He was always surrounded by colleagues, acquaintances, and so-called friends. But the moment he retired, those friendships vanished overnight. At first, he felt the need to chase them, to make sure he wasn't forgotten. But then he had a realization. Why am I wasting energy on people who were only there out of convenience? Why am I holding on to relationships that were never truly meaningful? Instead of clinging to outdated friendships, Harold shifted his focus inward. He started exploring hobbies he had long neglected. He read books, traveled alone, and reconnected with his own inner peace. And something incredible happened. He felt freer than ever before. When you stop seeking validation from others, you'll realize how much energy you were wasting on friendships that didn't add real value to your life. You don't have to worry about impressing people anymore. You don't have to prove your worth through social circles, status, or appearances. At this stage, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. Instead of stressing over who's calling, who's inviting you out, or who still considers you a friend, imagine the peace of simply living for yourself. So let me ask you, when was the last time you did something purely for you? No pressure, no expectations, just pure enjoyment. If it's been a while, maybe it's time to embrace the freedom of not needing to prove yourself anymore. Because here's the truth. You are enough, and you always have been. Reason 2. Peace becomes more valuable than socializing. When you were younger, being around people might have felt exciting. Parties, gatherings, and long conversations gave you a sense of connection. But as time goes on, something shifts. You start to realize that peace, true, deep, uninterrupted peace, is more valuable than any social event. Many friendships, even the good ones, come with a certain level of responsibility. There are calls to return, invitations to accept, and unspoken expectations to maintain contact. But what happens when these obligations become more draining than fulfilling? Let's talk about Margaret, a 74-year-old woman who used to have a large circle of friends. Her schedule was always packed: lunches, phone calls, holiday gatherings. But over time, she started to dread these interactions. The conversations felt repetitive, with the same old stories told over and over. Some friends only called to complain, others were more interested in gossip than meaningful discussions. One day, Margaret made a bold decision. She started saying no. She stopped feeling guilty for declining invitations she wasn't excited about. She no longer forced herself to return every call immediately. Instead of keeping up with friendships out of habit, she chose to embrace solitude. At first, it felt unfamiliar, but soon she discovered something beautiful. Quiet wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. Without the constant noise of social obligations, she suddenly had more time for herself. She took long walks without worrying about rushing home for a phone call. She finally read the books she had been meaning to for years. She spent afternoons in the garden, listening to the birds, feeling completely at ease. And she realized something powerful. The absence of social obligations didn't make her life empty. It made it richer. The truth is, at this stage in life, you don't have to fill your days with activity just to feel connected. You don't need to constantly prove that you're social or keeping up. Instead, you get to choose peace over pressure. You get to wake up without the weight of social expectations. You get to enjoy the beauty of solitude, where your thoughts are your own and your time belongs to no one but you. So if you've ever felt guilty for stepping back from social obligations, let that guilt go. Because choosing peace doesn't mean you're withdrawing from life. It means you're finally living on your own terms. Reason 3. Fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that not everyone you call a friend is truly there for you. As the years go by, you start to see the truth. Some friendships are built on convenience, some fade away, and some were never genuine to begin with. By the time you reach 70, you've likely experienced betrayals, disappointments, and one-sided relationships. And here's the thing. When you have fewer friendships, you also have fewer disappointments. Let's talk about William, a 78-year-old man who always made an effort to keep his friendships alive. He checked in regularly, sent birthday messages, and made plans to catch up. But over time, he noticed something painful. Not everyone reciprocated his efforts. Some old friends were too busy to respond. Others only reached out when they needed something. And the worst part, the people he thought would be there for him during tough times slowly disappeared. At first, he wondered if he had done something wrong. But then he had a realization. Why am I exhausting myself trying to hold on to people who don't care as much as I do? So he made a change. Instead of chasing friendships that felt one-sided, he focused on himself. He spent time with the people who genuinely cared, his family, a lifelong friend who always showed up, and most importantly, himself. And guess what? His stress disappeared. He no longer felt the sting of waiting for a call that never came. He no longer felt hurt when someone forgot his birthday. He was free from the emotional weight of disappointment. That's the beauty of letting go. When you stop expecting people to be the way you wish they were, you also stop feeling hurt when they aren't. Now, this doesn't mean you should isolate yourself. It simply means prioritizing quality over quantity. Instead of maintaining a long list of acquaintances, focus on meaningful connections, even if that means having just 1 or 2 people in your life who truly matter. Because at this stage in life, your energy is precious. You don't need to waste it on people who don't value you. Instead, invest it where it truly counts, on relationships that bring peace, not pain. Reason 4. Your time becomes more precious. As you get older, you start to realize something life-changing. Your time is the most valuable thing you have. When you were younger, time felt abundant. There was always more of it, more time to spend with friends, more time to invest in social circles, more time to worry about who was in your life and who wasn't. But by the time you reach 70, your perspective shifts. Now, every day, every hour, and every moment matters more than ever. And that means you need to start asking yourself, am I spending my time in a way that truly makes me happy? Let's talk about Richard, an 80-year-old man who once had an active social life. He went to dinner parties, group outings, and made regular phone calls, not necessarily because he wanted to, but because he thought he had to. But over time, those activities started to feel less like joy and more like obligation. He found himself sitting through conversations that felt repetitive, listening to people complain, or pretending to enjoy small talk just to maintain friendships. Then, one day, it hit him. This isn't how I want to spend my time. So, Richard made a powerful decision. He stopped saying yes out of habit and started saying no when he didn't feel like going out. Instead of spending hours catching up on gossip, he dedicated his time to things that truly brought him joy: reading, walking, in nature, learning new things, and simply enjoying his own company. And here's the surprising part. He didn't feel lonely. In fact, he felt more fulfilled than ever before. That's the secret most people don't realize. The more you protect your time, the happier you become. So if you ever find yourself wondering whether you should keep up with certain friendships, ask yourself this: is this the best use of my time? Because at this stage in life, you don't owe your time to anyone. You've earned the right to spend it however you choose. And when you start living on your own terms, you'll realize that your happiest moments aren't the ones spent pleasing others. They're the ones spent enjoying life in a way that truly fulfills you. Reason 5. True companionship comes from within. One of the biggest misconceptions about aging is that you need a large circle of friends to be happy. Society tells us that the more people we surround ourselves with, the more fulfilling life will be. But here's the real truth. The most important companionship you can have is with yourself. When you reach 70, you've spent decades learning, growing, and evolving. You've experienced relationships, friendships, and social circles. But now it's time to embrace the most meaningful connection of all, the one you have with yourself. Take Eleanor, for example. She's 76 and spent most of her life believing that she needed to stay socially active to feel happy. She made plans, checked in on friends, and filled her days with activities. But something always felt off. Despite being around people, she often felt drained rather than uplifted. Then one day, she decided to try something different. Instead of filling her schedule with social obligations, she spent time alone, not in loneliness but in self-discovery. She took long walks, sat in a cafe with a book, and enjoyed quiet evenings without feeling like she had to check in with anyone. And to her surprise, she felt happier than she had in years. That's what most people don't realize. There's a huge difference between being alone and being lonely. Some of the happiest people in their later years are those who have learned to embrace solitude, not as isolation, but as an opportunity for peace, reflection, and self-fulfillment. Because when you stop relying on others for entertainment, validation, or conversation, you unlock a level of freedom that most people never experience. You no longer need external distractions to feel content. You become your own best company, and here's the best part. When you truly enjoy your own presence, you naturally attract better relationships. Instead of chasing friendships out of loneliness, you start forming connections that feel effortless, with people who respect your space, understand your values, and bring peace instead of pressure. So if you've ever feared that letting go of certain friendships might leave you feeling alone, remember this: the best company you will ever have is already with you. And once you embrace that, you'll realize you were never truly alone in the first place. Reason 6, letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. One of the most powerful things you can do after 70 is let go. Let go of the pressure to maintain friendships that no longer bring joy. Let go of the belief that your social circle defines your worth. Let go of the fear that being alone means being lonely. Because the moment you release these expectations, you open the door to a life that is simpler, freer, and far more fulfilling. Many people hold on to friendships out of habit, even when those relationships no longer add value to their lives. They attend gatherings they don't enjoy, answer phone calls out of obligation, and keep up appearances simply because it's what they've always done. But what if you didn't have to do any of that? What if you gave yourself permission to let go of friendships that felt like work and instead focused on the things that truly bring you happiness? Take James, a man in his late 70s who once believed that staying socially active was the key to aging well. He made an effort to keep in touch with old friends, even when those friendships had become distant or superficial. He filled his days with social obligations, thinking that staying busy meant staying fulfilled. But one day he realized something life-changing. He wasn't actually enjoying any of it. The conversations felt repetitive. The gatherings felt routine. And deep down, he felt more exhausted than connected. So he made a choice. He stopped forcing friendships that no longer felt meaningful. Instead, he prioritized what truly mattered: his health, his personal passions, and his own inner peace. And in doing so, he discovered something incredible. He felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than ever before. That's the thing about letting go. It doesn't mean closing yourself off from the world. It means creating space for what truly fulfills you. So ask yourself this: am I holding on to certain friendships out of habit? Or are they truly adding to my happiness? Because once you give yourself permission to let go, you'll find that life becomes simpler, lighter, and more fulfilling in ways you never expected. As we wrap up this video, take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed. The idea that you don't need friends after 70 isn't about isolation. It's about freedom. It's about letting go of unnecessary obligations, choosing peace over pressure, and embracing a life that feels right for you. You've seen how stepping away from friendships that no longer serve you can bring more joy, time, and fulfillment than you ever expected. So now I want to hear from you. Which of these 6 reasons resonated with you the most? Have you ever let go of a friendship and felt relieved? Leave a comment below. I'd love to read your thoughts, and if this video gave you a new perspective, don't forget to hit the like button to let me know you found this helpful. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our future videos. Your support helps us continue creating content that inspires, informs, and empowers you. Thank you for watching, and remember, your happiness starts with the choices you make for yourself. See you in the next video.